Hi guys, this is Michael and welcome to my YouTube channel. So for today's episode of book review, I'm doing another really good book. I got to have this book about 4 years ago, but I didn't actually get to read it because then my love for reading wasn't really there. So until last year when I started getting more into reading and I was able to lay my hands on the book again and I started reading it. Now, I should say the book is a really good book because ever since I read it, it's been really helpful to me and it's helped me understand, what exactly my relationship with God should look like and should be like. So the book I'm reviewing today is The Walk by Shaun Alexander. Now, a brief story on Shaun Alexander. Shaun Alexander was formerly an NFL player. He played the position of running back. He played for the Washington Redskins and the Seattle Seahawks. He was inducted into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame and he retired in the year. So he received the MVP for the NFL in the year 2005. So he was really a top shot player before he retired a couple of years ago. This book was first written and published in the 2010. While the second edition, which I believe is this one right here, was written and published. No, was published in 2011. Front cover, we can have an idea of what the book is really about. It says clear direction and spiritual power for your life. This book is divided into 6 parts to 20 chapters. Each part talks explicitly about our walk and relationship with God, from the point of not knowing Him to the point of knowing Him well. The first part is the unbeliever, then the believer, then the example, the teacher, the imparter, and the last one, which is walking with God. The first 5 parts talks about our different levels of relationship with God, while the 6th part is actually like a summary or conclusion of what the first 5 parts is actually about. The first part or chapter being the unbeliever, Shaun talks about who we were before we got to know Christ, what our life looked like before we actually got to know Christ, and divided the parts into 2. The wanderer and the wanderer, one with the hay and the one with the hoe. The wanderer, the one with the hay, is the person that doesn't know Christ yet. It is the personal individual that still has the attitude of anything goes, the person that lives his life with actually believing there's a repercussion to everything that he's doing here on earth. While the wanderer, the one with the hoe, is the person that's already started to ask questions that are, questions that are challenging, questions that are trying to know what exactly there is to life. The person is becoming inquisitive of what exactly life is about. The person believes that there should be a greater power, involved in everything that is happening on earth. So that's the position of a wanderer. So the unbeliever went into those 2 parts, which are the wanderer and the wanderer. The thing about the book is Shaun was able to, talk about the trials, the traps, and the victories of every level of walking with God. Start from the unbeliever to the imparter in walking with God, which is actually a summary. But from the 5 parts or 5 chapters, was able to talk about the trials and traps and the victories. But for the unbeliever at this particular level, there's actually no trial and trap, because then you're still in the world. Then you don't actually know who God is. Then you just live your life how you believe your life should be lived, which is it could be either good or bad. So for trials and traps is different from when the person actually gets to know Christ. The second part of the chapter in the book that Shaun talks about is the believer. Now this is a position where you've surrendered your life to Christ. This is a position where you've already let go of the world and accept Christ. This is a position where you already believe that there is a greater power and you've accepted the greater power into your life. This is the point where you neglect what you normally would do to believe was good, which then was bad, but not accepting what is the right thing to do. But of course, there are trials and traps and victories to this part also. The struggles, struggles with old habits, some of the things you normally would do, they would just automatically leave you alone, but they will still be there. So the trials and traps, of the believer is having to struggle with that part of his or herself that was formerly dead, that believed to be right, but now having to believe that all those things are, actually not right. So having to neglect them, push them aside, or renounce them and actually get to believe, the new way of living. So those are the trials and traps, having to struggle with old habits. The third part of this book, Shaun talks about being an example. This is the person that's already spiritually matured. This is the person that has been working with God for some time. The person that has already allowed the Holy Spirit to take control of his mind and thought. This is the person already exhibiting the fruits of the Spirit, which are joy, love, peace, kindness, goodness, self-control. The list goes on about there are 9 of them. So this person is already exhibiting those fruits of the Spirit in his life. The person is already spiritually matured and got to an extent that he's able to live right before God. But of course, there are also trials and traps to this particular level of walking with God, which is self-righteousness. Now this is the point where the person elevates himself beyond who he actually is. This is the point where the person starts setting rules and starting to make people believe that he's higher than who he actually is, elevating his position, elevating himself, and thinking him that he is better than every other person around him, he or she rather, better than every other person around him. Self-righteousness, right? You believe your level, your way of living, your way of living into the respect to the gospel is better than every other person around you. This is the point where the person believes he's perfect in his walk with God, but actually Shaun says something. He said God is not looking for perfection, actually looking for devotion and order. So he is actually the opposite of what the person is doing that God is interested in. The fourth part of the chapter, level of work, in this book that Shaun talks about is being a teacher. That is the point where you become a mentor, you become a coach, a trainer for someone. It is a position where you start developing people also, to be like Christ. This is the point where your life emulates who Christ actually truly is. And this is the point where you can actually use your life examples to teach others. When being an example, you can also do other, but this particular point, you've got to a point where you can bring up other people younger than you, and you can also help people older than you in the faith to be a better Christian, to be a better person in relationship with God. So this Shaun talks about is level that your life is no longer what it was, but now you are able to pour out part of yourself to others. You're able to pour out part of yourselves to your prodigies. You're able to help them also, your proteges rather. You're able to help them also to become the best possible version of themselves. Because now you've already got to a position where you can help them to become the best possible version of themselves. Of course, there are trials and traps to being a teacher. This is it is the opposite of humility. Actually, this is the point where the person refuses to remain a servant despite being a leader. This is the position where the person has allowed pride to eat into himself, and able now allowing God to take proper position in his life. Sixth part of this book is the Imparter. Shaun talks about it as a position where you've religiously and diligently exhibited and lived through every step of the way, from the unbeliever to the believer to the example to the teacher. And now the Imparter is the point where you're able to impart people's life on a grand scale. I believe every other step imparts lives, but this particular level, you impart lives on a grand scale. You're able to send someone. You're going to send someone out. Either you are starting a ministry, you're able to send someone how to start his ministry, to lay hands on the person. You're able to use Elijah and Elisha as an example. Elisha was the protege of Elijah. Elijah took Elisha under him to teach him his way, to teach him the ways of Christ, teach him how to be a better prophet, than he was. And at a point, Elijah gave Elisha a blank check to ask him anything he would actually want. And Elisha asked for a double portion of his anointing, which was like he had to impart him double portion of his anointing. So that was the example that Shaun used, able to impart the person on a grand scale, to pour out almost all what you've done to the person's life to do better than you've done. So this is like the height of it, I believe, and it's a position where you are prone to falls, you are prone to trials and traps, and the trials and traps of this particular level, Shaun stated as 3 G's, which are gold, glory, and girls, or gold, glory, and giants. First one of the 3 G's being gold represents money and possession. This is a position where money gets to possessions, or what you have in your bank account, or what you've been able to acquire along the way, gets to your head and you start overacting. Money and possessions are not bad, but them able to control your life and them telling you what to do and how to do, and that is where the problem is. When the Bible says you cannot serve 2 masters, you cannot serve God and money, so you have to be able to know which exactly what you do. So it could be a trial, it could be a trap for you, and if you're not careful, it will lead to a fall. The second being glory, being what caused Satan to fall from heaven. The position where you actually want to get all the glory, you want to be reckoned with, to get all the credit of doing something, and he wanted to raise his own throne higher than the throne of God, and it failed obviously drastically and was sent out. So this is a position where you want to receive glory, you want to receive accolades, you want to receive credits for things that were done that probably weren't you, but you were involved, but you always want to be reckoned with, wherever you are and whatever you do. The third being gents or girls is the situation of opposite sex. Now, this is one of the pitfalls, one of the issues people have to go through. This is what caused the fall of the wisest man on earth, which was Solomon rather. He married 700 over 3 concubines. So this is the point where you are losing, carnal flesh takes over, and you start acting in such a way that is not appropriate when you see opposite sex around. And this is a place where if you're not careful, it has caused so many great people to fall. Not able to control themselves, not able to have self-control. It's one of the fruits of the spirit that you learn when you become an example. So this is the point where the person actually, or a teacher rather, so this is the point where the person has not been able to do that, but the devil uses that because we are humans, of course, and these are the things that humans want to do and interact, but not being able to put self-control and putting a lead over it, when actually overdoing it could be a pitfall and could be a trap or trial for the Imparter. The sixth part of the book is walking the walk. This is the place where Shaun talks about, having to serve God effectively, having to pace yourself with your relationship and your walk with God, having to understand, where you are and how you can be better at what you're doing. Are you able to understand that God is actually not after perfection, but is after devotion and order? So how you can live your life, to reflect all that you've learned, all that you've, become through the level of the walk with God and gotten to this point. So Shaun talks about being effective in ministry, being able to do the work of God effectively, and also able to live right. Walking the walk actually has to do with practicing all what you've learned, or what you know, or what you've become along the list as you became a Christian, a believer, and able to use all that with knowledge of the Word of God to live right before Him. So this brings me to the end of my book review today, and I believe this is actually a really good book. And I'm going to head with a quote he wrote at the back. He said, "Are you walking with God, dragging your feet or running ahead of Him? Take the first step in living at God's pace." So having to live, having to be paced the way God wants you to be paced, not getting too ahead or behind of God, but walking with Him and living your life right before Him. And I hope you've all been able to learn something, and you've all been able to understand what walking with God should actually is about. And I recommend the book as a must-have for everyone, trying to understand or trying to have a relationship with God or walking with God steadfastly. So I recommend this book for everyone out there to get. Quickly before you go, I would like if you just give this video a thumbs up and the subscribe button. We really appreciate. So till I come your way next time, I'm reviewing another book soon. Take care and God bless.